Doing some comments about stately homes in England, and I've done a number of country stately homes, and now we're going to turn to some anomalies. And this is where the landowners in England have urban land and want to put a stately home into a restricted area. So I start by just painting a picture of Antonio Palladio, the Italian, who used ancient Roman pillars and porticos and symmetry, which were themselves really Greek ideas, and the Grand Tour in England and fashion brought the designs from Palladian designs to England. And you'll see Buckingham Palace, 99% of stately homes in England, other than castles, have got Palladian things, equal symmetrical wings, pillars, porticos, that sort of thing, rather like church design. So when it came to the town centres, they had to compress these shapes into urban buildings. A good example of that is the Bank of England, where you've got an office block fundamentally, and the Palladian portico doesn't fit into a tall narrow space, so they have made the Bank of England, for example, have a very, very high plinth, rusticated stone, and then the elements of portico and pillars is elevated, starts on the third floor, and it's an office block with this Palladian frontage. Euston Station, 1850-ish, similar thing. It's a railway station with a huge arched railway terminal with a classical pillared portico. The British Museum, a bit earlier, 1800-ish, was built as a museum, and has got these wings and pillars. So you've got this effect going on. And if even in India, in about 1910, roughly speaking, Sir Edwin Lutyens was sent to make the colonial governmental compound. And I think he was given 350 acres of land to make this area. So he built a parliament, a congress, he built the Viceroy's palace, he built a bungalow zone for people connected with the government, the families of the British officials who were there. And you have this very curious architecture where you have an Indian building, an Indian designed building built by a British architect with the Mughal style cupola and domes, yet it still follows this Palladian idea of portico with pillars, which are not really an Indian thing, with these wings. So if you cross the Taj Mahal with Buckingham Palace, you get this sort of Indian Lutyens effect thing going on. So back to London, you've got Buckingham Palace, which was built in around 1700 as a private house, and the piece of land itself was swamp and had been rented and purchased by everyone under the sun, including William the Conqueror, to the royal family and all sorts of people in the middle. It was once a plantation for mulberries, which is a tree which the silkworm lives on, because there was a silk plantation in London. It was a brothel. It was an open air brothel. It was a park, a swamp, as I say, farmland. It was a bridge, a fording area for cattle. Latterly, of course, it was this private house built in 1700, and in the end, 1760, I think it was, the royal family got hold of it. And what they bought was a yellow limestone house, which was a cube with two low wings, and they fattened up the wings, and then they added a front gatehouse which enclosed the quadrangle, and the effect was you have this C-shaped old house which was plumped up, and then in around 1850 they put the east wing on, which is the wing we all see nowadays with the balcony on. But the wing we see now was in fact a remodelled 1850s wing, remodelled in 1913. So everyone looks at Buckingham Palace and thinks it's an ancient palace. It's not an ancient palace. The palace behind it is a Georgian yellow stone palace. The bit we see at the front was built from scratch in 1850 on the site of Marble Arch, which is a monument, a gatehouse, Triumphal Arch, which is now in the corner of Hyde Park near Oxford Street. So on the site of Marble Arch, original Marble Arch, you've got this 1850s Victorian wing, which had a decorative top, and in 1913 they clad it with a much more brooding classical skin with reeded columns and the gatehouse effect we see now. It's really a gatehouse, the east wing. You have three entrances. The central entrance has the balcony above it, but it has three entrances which carriages and cars can go through. So you drive through the wing we all see now, the balcony, and you're into this courtyard quadrangle, which is the area which was in the C shape of the original house. The stone of the east wing is a grey stone, and it's a drab stone, and it's very unsatisfying that when you go through the east wing, which is a grey stone, the colour of the stone changes to a yellow stone. So it's very disappointing. The chapel was bombed in the war. That's now a picture gallery. There's a conservatory, a ballroom. There's a lake. It's a remarkable palace, nevertheless. It's got 775 rooms, and it's the largest private garden in London. So Buckingham Palace is interesting, and to follow this idea of the use of Palladian architecture in England, in the Empire, you've got the rather strange building in Stormont in Northern Ireland. There is a field in the grounds of Stormont Castle, and in the mid-1930s there was a classical office built, which is the seat of the power in Northern Ireland, and it looks like an 18th century palace. It's not. It's, as I say, 1935, but it looks like Buckingham Palace. It's very unyielding, solid, built at the top of a hill with a sweeping driveway, and this sort of architecture survived all the way through to the 1930s in India, around the empire, within Britain, within the colonies, within parts of the United Kingdom. And once you start looking around, you'll see many public buildings, banks, churches have got this column portico building sort of style, as of course churches have as well. Okay, hope that's been interesting. Thank you.